Hey, before we get started on today's show, I want to share with you something that you may not be familiar with, and that's the Mindset Mastery Movement. Not that long ago, I started the Mindset Mastery Movement. And what it is it's a group coaching program that brings like minded individuals, primarily entrepreneurs, professionals, executives, together to really go into a deeper dive on the concepts that help you create your ideal life. And for many of you listening, you might be working on your business. How do I grow that? How do I grow my income to new levels, my financial life, my wealth? It could be working on your body and your health, as I am right now, too. It could be relationships. Ultimately, what I learned a long time ago was that anything and everything you've ever wanted is available to you, and it comes to you and through you by understanding some natural laws and universal laws and how to work with your mind and the universe around you. So we do a deep dive on that. We do Q&A once a month, group coaching. We do a live training for 90 minutes. And right now the doors are closed for it, but I want to give you an opportunity to get on the wait list to be the very first to know when we open the doors for new members. So if you like the sounds of that, go to www.benspangle.com/MMM and get yourself on the wait list, or you can click the link below in the show notes. All right. Hey, welcome back. Today, I'm going to be talking to you about one of my all-time favorite subjects. It's a subject that, without a shadow of a doubt, has changed my life more than anything else has. I could talk to you about business, which has dramatically changed my life. Obviously, health and fitness, relationships. I mean, there's so many different things. The subject I'm going to talk to you about today is the one that, for me personally, I've invested the most amount of time and the most amount of money compared to anything else that I've ever done in my life. And that is the subject of personal development and personal growth. You know, if you're listening to this podcast, obviously you're already into your own personal development and personal growth. And I want to talk to you today about, I guess, really my plan, what I do, what I've done, what I do today, and how it's helped me in my life. You know, if I take you back to when I started, I was a young entrepreneur and hungry to change my life. I was so tired of being broke. I was so tired of just getting by that I really wanted to change my life. And I remember the moment, the day that I decided that I was going to get into personal growth. And I didn't know it at the time. I had no idea that it was going to happen. But I was sitting in a training classroom with at the time, still is, but a great mentor. And I didn't know him very well. He was more of a mentor at the distance at the time. And he was in the same business, of course, that I was in the insurance business. And he was earning a significant amount of money. I think it was about $420,000 a year. And to me, at that point in my life, you know, here I was in my early 20s. I think I was making maybe $30,000, $35,000 as an apprentice in construction. And here's this guy, his mid 20s, he might've been 26, 27 years old. And he might as well have been earning 10 million a year at that point in my life, because it was so far beyond what I ever thought was possible. And I didn't know anybody that made that kind of money. So I'm in this class, and I don't remember anything else other than this. And this is a decision that I decided the day I decided that I was going to invest in myself, in my personal growth. And it started with something so simple. There's probably 30 or 40 of us in the classroom. And I felt like he was talking to me. I don't know if you've ever been in that situation where you're at an event or you're at somewhere, a meeting or some kind, and there's a whole sea of people, but for some reason you feel like the speaker's talking directly to you. This was one of those moments for me. I'm sitting near the back because I was so shy and nervous at that point in my life. I never would dare sit near the front in case they asked me to say something. But he proceeds to say, you know, that if you're going to change your life, you're going to have to grow. You're going to have to become different than who you are today. And he then says, I read a book a week. That one sentence altered the course of my life forever. Here I was, early 20s, wanting to succeed in my life, wanting to grow, wanting to have confidence, wanting to become, a better version of me. And here's this guy who, for all intents and purposes, had what I would have considered a dream life at that point. And he says, I read a book a week. And like I said, there's 30, 40 people in the class. And I don't know if anybody else heard it the way I heard it. I'm sure they heard the words, but I heard it so differently. And I thought to myself, wow, he's reading a book a week. I'm not reading anything. And that day I decided to start reading. And so somebody else had recommended a book, Think and Grow Rich. And I invested in my very first personal development book. I keep it on my shelf right over here. If you're watching the video, if you're listening, you can check it out later. But I keep a copy of Think and Grow Rich on my shelf because it was the very first personal development book I ever read. And it altered the course of my life. I started reading it and I was fascinated. And I was never a reader. You know, in high school, I'd try and avoid all I could do, read the least amount to just get through. I was never a reader. But then when I started reading Think and Grow Rich, I couldn't put it down. And I was a slow reader when I started. It took me a long time because I had not developed the muscle. But I couldn't put it down. And that book started me on a whole new chapter of life, no pun intended, that I became fanatical about reading. Very quickly, I started reading every single day, half an hour, an hour. You know, I still had a full-time job at this point. I was working part-time on my business, full-time in the job. And I would, during my lunch breaks, we would go sitting around in the coffee room with all the other construction guys. And here I'd pull out a book and I'm reading it. And they kind of make fun of me and, oh, what are you reading? And, you know, they're poking at me. And I remember when I was reading my second book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. And, you know, I being ridiculed a whole bunch at the lunch table there for that one. But I was fanatical. Yeah, I'd read in the morning before I got there. I'd read at lunch. I'd read in the evenings. I stopped watching, you know, Netflix and things like that. I stopped playing video games and I was obsessed with reading. And it changed my life. I read one book and it led me to the next book and then the next one. And I was just hungry. And anytime I was somewhere in a meeting anywhere and they recommended a book, I'd write it down at the back of my notebook. And, you know, I didn't have a lot of money at then, so I couldn't go buy them all at once, but I would make sure to go and buy the next one that I could. And I started building my library. And today, that library is a fairly large library. I mean, if you're watching this, you only see, you know, a small portion. I've got 2 full bookshelves over here in my home office. I've got another full bookshelf over here. I've got another full bookshelf over there. I've got a mini one in our bedroom upstairs. I've got another one at my office, and I'm fanatical about it. I mean, I'm consuming books all the time. And so that started the journey. And then what started from there was I was reading, but then I started getting into CDs because podcasts didn't exist. So I started listening to CDs and I'd hear, you know, get this one, get that one. And I got some Brian Tracy and some Tony Robbins. Somebody lent me their Tony Robbins set. And Jim Rohn. I ended up getting a bunch of Jim Rohn audios. And then Bob Proctor. And I have to tell you, this decision to invest in my personal growth, to become a serious student, changed my life forever. And again, if you're listening to these words or you're watching me and hearing me say this right now, I know you're obviously on your path for growth. What I want to encourage you is, can you level it up? Because what I understood, and I understand more than ever in my life, the more time you invest to do the inner work to grow you and grow yourself, the better your life will get. So some people, you know, we listen to podcasts today, and podcasts are an incredible medium. Obviously, that's what this is. It's one of the best mediums to grow because we can do it while we're doing other things. We're driving to work. You know, we might be cleaning the house. You might be mowing the lawn. You might be at the gym. You might be doing whatever. And there's such an incredible opportunity for you to grow. And if you're one of the people that says, yeah, but I don't like to read, I'm going to challenge you to pick up a book, begin reading. Even if it starts small, 10 pages, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour, something. But to build the habit of reading, because, and the reason I say it, here's why, is that when you read, you aren't able to do anything else. You know, you can't be mowing the lawn and reading. Yeah, I guess you could do it exercising if you're going at a slow enough pace maybe, but most of the time you're not going to be exercising and reading. Most of the time you're not out for a walk and reading. You're definitely not driving your car and reading. So what it does is it causes you to focus, to be able to really dial in and really take in whatever it is that you're reading. Now, a podcast, you could do the same, I suppose, if you sat there and just listened to it, but most of the time we don't do that. Maybe an online course, you do that there. If you invest in an online course, all you're doing is that. And I guess what I'm talking about is really focused time to grow you. There's that net time, no extra time, N-E-T. There's the net time when I'm doing something else and I can be listening. You know, I could be listening to a course or a podcast. However, you're just not able to give it your full attention. And nobody can argue that. But then there's focus time. And it's this focus growth that really changed me. It's this focus growth that really put me in a position to make some big decisions in my life. So I want to share with you, that's a bit of my starting journey, but I want to share with you my plan. What do I actually do? How do I grow personally? And you might use some of these, you might use all of them, you might use, none of them. But I guess I'm just trying to encourage you. As I said, I want to help you grow more. I know when we do this stuff, people that spend time in their personal growth, truly their growth, not just consuming information, but truly growing, become happier people, become healthier people, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically, become wealthier people. And to me, if we can become happier, healthier, and wealthier, sign me up. I'm interested. And nowadays, most of this stuff doesn't even cost a lot of money. A book doesn't cost much. Maybe today you spend $30, $40 on a book. That one book could change your life. But some people are unwilling to invest that money in themselves. A podcast costs nothing. So that's why they're so readily available, which is great. Courses, digital courses, they're going to range. Obviously, you got anywhere from probably $50 to a few $1,000s for some courses to 10,000 plus, depending on what it is. And those can be an amazing investment. Coaching, obviously, there's so many different things that we can use in our personal growth. I'm going to talk to you about my main tools that I've been using for better part of 15 years that don't really cost a lot of money and can completely transform your life. So reading, I've talked lots about. Obviously, you can tell I'm a big fan of reading. I read almost every day. And the reason I say almost is there's the odd day here and there that maybe whatever, we're busy with the family, I didn't get up as early as I would have liked to, something, but it is very rare that I will not read. And if you're one of the people that says, well, I just don't have time to read, I'm too busy, the I'm too busy excuse, we can swap I'm too busy with it's not a priority. It's not that you're too busy, it's just not a priority. Anything that we say I'm too busy for it's not a priority. If you say, well, I'm too busy to exercise, swap it. It's not a priority for me to exercise. And then you realize, wow, because you could exercise in 5 or 10 minutes to get started. Nobody doesn't have 5 or 10 minutes. And it's the same thing with reading. So if you're one of the people that says, I'm too busy to read, or I'm just not a reader, I wasn't a reader either, but I developed it and it changed my life. So reading is, to me, it's an absolute must if you want to get on an incredible path for your own personal growth and personal transformation. So I read almost every day. The other tools that have really made an impact for me are a few, and I'm going to list you my main ones. So reading is one. I've always been fanatical about listening to stuff in my car. And so again, it's in the early days, podcasts didn't exist. So it was always CDs. I'd be driving around with these CDs in my car, various speakers. And I loved it because I could be driving and learning at the same time. That university on wheels. And if the average person, maybe it's less today because of all the virtual stuff that we do, but the average person, if you drove an hour a day, some people 2 hours a day, but let's say you drove on average an hour a day, let's just even call it 5 days a week. Well, that's 5 hours a week. That's over 20 hours a month. That's over 240 hours in a year of learning. Now, if you drive 2 hours a day, that's 480 hours in a year. That's the equivalent of, how many is that? That's like 12 full 40-hour work weeks of learning that you could be doing. So again, probably odds are you're doing something as you're listening to this already. So you're probably already in the habit of that. Maybe if it's not quite a habit, I encourage you, turn that drive time, that net time into learning time. So I've always been fanatical about that. And at times, by the way, too fanatical where that's all I would do. Nowadays, I do that as well. And I'm also big on music I love. I think it puts me in a great vibration. I know it does. I'm also big on making calls when I'm driving. So to be clear, I'm not always listening just in the car. And it's a great vehicle to do so. The next one I really want to spend some time on, though, is, if reading was number one, this would be number two, at least in order of how these things change my life. And I'm sharing this all with you because, again, I know that wherever you are right now, wherever this message finds you, that there's things that you have in your life that are incredibly awesome. And there's things that you're really wanting to create in your life. There's that new version and vision of you that you've been wanting to make come true for quite some time. And maybe it's seemed like it's a challenge to do. Maybe it's been a challenge to break through in your finances. Maybe it's been a challenge to break through in your health and fitness. Maybe it's been a challenge in your relationships, maybe your personal happiness and your mental and emotional health. Whatever it might be, your business, I mean, you name it. These tools can help you in any area, because no matter what area that you're wanting to advance in your life, whichever one it is, guess how many resources are available to you? There's infinite resources available to you on the very subject that you're wanting to transform in your life. So reading was number one, and then journaling is number two. I believe that a journal is one of the best tools that we have available to change our life. Most people don't journal. Most people don't read a book. Most people don't finish the books that they read. But most people do not journal. And part of it is maybe we don't know how. So I'm going to do a whole another episode for you on how to journal and some ideas that you could use with that. Journaling, however, is one of those tools that is really great for the inner work. So what reading does, reading sets you up with information. Same with podcasts, same with courses. It sets you up for information. And as you know, information itself will never change your life. It's the application of the information that begins to change our life. When we apply it, we get to notice if I produce a different result. And in producing a different result, now I've acquired some wisdom, because this is real life experience. It's not theoretical. And there's too many people today that are all theoretical. Matter of fact, many of the people that are in the social media space and everything, I mean, they're teaching by theory rather than real life. And to me, it's fine. There's nothing wrong with theory. However, the best teacher you will ever have is you and your own life experience. It's not a podcast. It's not a book. It just gets you started. So a journal is one of the best tools for true inner work, because it causes you to think. The ability to write, to take an idea from your head and write on a piece of paper, you begin to be able to look at your life in such a different way. And the real most simple form of journaling, in my opinion, I can give you a whole format. We could say, well, you could write out your affirmations. What about the things you're grateful for? Maybe you write out your goals, and that's awesome. That's a great way, and I've done that many times. The most simple form of journaling, there's two main ways I'm going to give you that you can apply it in your life right away. Number one is just like thought dumps, brain dumps, where just whatever comes, you just let it flow in there. And so it might be you're feeling a certain way, and so you begin to write down, I'm feeling X, and then you begin to expand on that. That could be awesome. Now, you might be feeling incredibly well, and then that elevates it. You might be feeling kind of like low level, not feeling awesome, but you begin to write about that, and it allows you to release and process some of those emotions. Rather than suppressing them, you're processing them. You're expressing them. And this is key to long-term mental and physical and spiritual health, is to express these emotions. So that's one way, is you just brain dump. And I can't tell you how many times I've done that, where something's going on in my life. Usually it was something that was bothering me. There was a challenge, an obstacle, and I'm trying to solve it in my head. I'm going over it. I'm replaying it. I'm thinking about the conversation I'm going to have, and I'm doing all this stuff. And and it's getting nowhere with it other than feeling like crap. And then I would go sit in my chair, sit down. I got my journal right beside my chair, pull it out. I'll write down the date. All right, hey, I'm feeling frustrated. Why am I feeling frustrated? And I'll begin to let it all out. Boom, boom, boom. I'm feeling stressed. What am I stressing about? And I'll begin to let it all out. And sometimes that alone was enough to shift my state. And this is part of the real work, because you could just ignore the feeling. You could just, pretend it's not there, shove it under the rug. You know what happens if we continually shove stuff under the rug? Eventually, you've got a massive mound there. Well, what happens in our emotional health is if we do not express and process these, this is what leads to anxiety. This is what leads to depression, to outbursts, intense reactions. And I know these aren't the only reason why. I get it. But it definitely can lead to that stuff. Emotions that are suppressed eventually must be expressed. And either we're going to do it in a healthy way with great tools, or it's going to show up in our life in a way we don't want to. Panic attacks, etc. Dealing with our emotional health is of the utmost priority. I mean, think about it. How many decisions do we make emotionally? Almost all of them. So journal is a great way for a brain dump. So number one is brain dump. You can just write free flowing, whatever comes to mind. That's fine. Number two is to begin with a question. And there's so many different questions. All you need to do is just Google some journal prompts and you could have an entire list of them. And again, when I do my episode for you, I'll give you some as well, specifically on how to journal. But the power of a question. What are my most important priorities in my life right now? That's a question. And then you begin to journal about them. What do I want in my life? And you begin to journal about it. Why do I want those? And you journal about it. It's all great stuff. So one could just be free-flowing brain dump. And you could do a more structured one if you want to get started. There's lots of guided journals you could buy. I had one for a while. It's not available anymore, but I had one called 66 Days to Success. And it was a great format. We may put it back into print, but a great way to go and do that. I've used Brendan Burchard's High Performance Journal, which I enjoyed. I've used, I don't know, there's many. Some of the day planners that you can get have journaling built into them. So there's lots of options, right? There's lots of options. So again, if you're saying, I don't know where to start, don't let that be an excuse for very long. One quick Google search could get you started. Pretty easy. Brain dump, find some great questions and prompts that you could use for journaling, and you can get started. Reading was number one. Journaling was number two on my personal growth. And the first part of my life, my personal growth journey, those were the biggest two. The later part of my life, for the last, 6-7 years now, I guess, has been the third one. And I speak a lot on this one on many of our episodes. I have an entire mini course that you can do on it, a 7-day mini course on it. I've got at our workshops and seminars that we do, anytime we do live seminars, we do these all the time in them. And the reason why I'm so passionate about this last one is that in, like I said, the last 6-7 years, there's not been a tool, there's not been a resource, there's not been a program there's nothing that has made a bigger difference in my life than meditation. And if I could go back, sometimes people ask me that question. If you go back to your younger self, what advice would you give? If I could go back to that younger version of me, what advice would I give? The answer would be begin meditating. And I had done it when I was younger, but then I fell off and I stopped doing it for a long time. But not just begin, build it as a habit and a practice. Meditation is, it's right up there, arguably, in my opinion, even more impactful. I don't know if more impactful is the right word, but it is incredibly impactful for some of the greatest inner work you'll ever do. Meditation, you can do so many guided ones. You could just do sitting silently. I mean, there's so many different options that are available to us. The ability to sit silently, though, and not be on our phones, not be talking to somebody, not be on the computer, not be doing something. You're just being. And you are a human being. You're not a human doing. But we spend way too much of our time doing, and there's no time for being. And when there's no time for being, and we're just doing, eventually this leads to a very unhappy place. So meditating allows you to be. You're there, your eyes closed. You might be in silence. It might be with music, nice soft music. And it's allowing you to witness your thoughts, to become the observer. Rather to engage in thoughts, you become the observer. So the practice of meditation is an incredible one. You can go into the silence. You can go into this void, if you will, where I'm not doing anything else. I'm just purely focused within. And now you can begin to do a lot of things. You might just do more transcendental meditation where you're just allowing the thoughts to pass, kind of gently pushing them away and just being. You might do a guided meditation that has you doing some visualization and imagery in it. Also awesome. You might be doing a goal kind of meditation, an intention one where you meditate for a while and then you begin to visualize your future. Also amazing. All these are great things. They're really great things. It takes practice, all these things. If it's reading your book and you're not a reader, it's going to take some practice to build that muscle. If it's journaling and that's not been a part of your habits yet, it's going to take some practice. If it's meditating, the biggest lie that everybody says when they start meditating is, I can't meditate. My mind's too busy. Yeah. Hey, everyone's like that. That's how it starts out for everybody when they start, because we're not practiced in it yet. I have to tell you though, again, to emphasize, meditation above all else changed my life dramatically. And if I could go back in time, I would have committed to it earlier in my life. I have seen things happen in my life, goals that have manifested, the life that we've created. It's helped me create more wealth. It's helped me create more business success, more physical health and vitality through meditation. And it probably deserves its own hour-long conversation, just this one thing. Meditation is incredibly powerful for helping you get the life that you want. And most importantly for me, it helped me become happy. It helped me become a happy person. I was building my life and I had moments of happiness, but I was constantly feeling the mental stresses of life, of not being where I wanted to be, pushing harder, needing to do more, work more, achieve more so that I could feel worthy, so I could feel complete. I didn't know that's what I was looking for at the time. But I knew I had this emptiness inside that no matter how much I achieved, nothing was good enough. Meditation changed that for me. And I was scared that if I became like that, where I didn't have that, need to achieveness, that I would stop achieving. But it turned out to be the exact opposite. I began creating more of the things I wanted in my life with more ease, with less effort, allowing more of it to flow into my life. And now I'm at a place in my life where that's becoming even more and more prevalent because I'm taking the time to be. And in the being, it opens up the doors for creating even more of what you want. So you could start with any one of these 3 tools. These are my 3 personal growth tools that I use. I go to seminars. Yes, I get into online courses. I've got coaches that I hire and work with. I have all those things. And the 3 that I use on a daily basis and have helped me change my life dramatically are the ones I shared with you today: reading, journaling, and meditation. And the best part is they cost almost nothing. A book is so inexpensive compared to the value it could give you. Someone will take all their life experience in that subject, pour it into a book of 100, 200, 300 pages, and you might pay 25, 30, 40 bucks for it. All their life experience. A journal costs a journal, whatever the journal costs. If you're really tight, you could go buy a little dollar book, right? Little spiral bound book. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be something. I like nice journals nowadays, at this point in my life. But a journal doesn't cost much. And then meditation, there's so many free ones on YouTube that you could literally go on YouTube and get them, right? There's obviously ones you can buy, which are awesome. Most of the ones I own now are people that, I love and I bought theirs. However, you could get started on YouTube. It's amazing, right? Matter of fact, if you, in the show notes here, if you click a link, I've got a free 5-minute meditation, relaxation for creation that you can have. Just go to the show notes, click the link below. I think it's benspangle.com/free, if I remember correctly. But it'll be in the show notes for you anyways. And there's a meditation that'll help you get started, right there. I promise you, if you are already doing these in your life and you're doing them on a regular basis or daily basis, you know the benefits. And so you're reaping it already. If maybe one of these you're doing, but perhaps not the other, maybe start with one. Pick one of these that we talked about and begin to apply it in your life the next 30, 60, 90 days. And just notice the 2 things I like to notice. Number 1, how am I feeling differently? And feeling will precede your outer results, by the way. But then number 2 is, how do my results begin to shift? And your results might be, wow, I'm interacting with people differently. It might be making more money. It might be, more productive in your business. It might be your relationship improves. It might be you're becoming a better parent. It might be you begin to transform your health. All these things work together. When we improve one area of our life, it benefits the other areas. So when we begin to build a new discipline of personal growth, it's not only going to impact that one area, it'll begin to impact all areas. I hope you've enjoyed today. I love this subject. I'm passionate about it. It's something that has completely revolutionized and transformed my life. There's no way I would be where I am today had it not be for an incredible commitment to ongoing personal development and growth. You can do it too. No matter where you are, you can change your life. You can become who you want to be. You can do what you want to do. You can have what you want to have. And personal growth unlocks a whole world of opportunity for you. Start wherever you are. Take the next step. Keep moving forward. It's going to get better and better and better because you're getting better and better and better. Hey, I'm so thankful to have you here. I appreciate you. If you're new to the show, click subscribe. Make sure you share the episode with someone that needs to hear this today. And I'd love to hear from you on social media. Instagram's the best. Facebook you can do as well, but Instagram is the best. I love hearing from you and hearing how these ideas are impacting your life. Thanks again. I'll see you soon.